Winning on Wednesday is a platform that meets every week at 11 o'clock on Wednesdays, and we're there to meet with, make friends. I always say people do business who they know, like, and trust. And today I have a pleasure to meeting one of my good friends is Elliot West. Elliot, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Juan?
Good, good, good. So tell us a little bit about quickly about yourself.
Oh God, where do I start? I guess what I'm currently doing, I'm a platform advocate for ServiceNow within a company, IT company here in the Nordics. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell, what I'm currently doing.
Wow, wow, that's
Yeah, no, it sounds more impressive than it is, I think.
it's a little bit cold up there, right? I would say a
It's
little bit.
always cold up here.
Yeah.
Summer, they say summer is our favorite day of the year. So
Oh wow, and yeah, short, yeah. And so where did you grow up? Tell us where it all began.
well, as you can tell by the accent, although currently live in Sweden, I'm not originally Swedish, I guess. I'm not a real Swede. No, I was born in the UK in the Royal County of Berkshire in, Queen's Country, as they call it.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so that's where I spent the first 25 years of my life or thereabouts. And then I decided to up ship, pack bags, and to move north towards the Arctic Circle. And now I currently live in Stockholm, Sweden.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you also had to learn the language too, right?
Right, yeah, that's yeah, I never thought that was coming. That's weird because when I was younger, I thought I was always going to move to France for some reason. I think probably because most members of my family spoke French, and I thought I probably at one point had this dream of moving to France. But anyway, ended up in Sweden. I never saw that coming because you have this idea that it's just like polar bears and Volvos, and actually didn't realize quite how well Sweden suited me as a person. In that, actually, there was a lot that Sweden was doing well that I really liked. So yeah, the language was a challenge. Absolutely, the first 6 months was tough, but then after a year, you sort of start dreaming in the language, and then you think, oh, okay, I've cracked it. And now it's I don't even think about it. It's just instinct.
Wow. So tell us when you were little, did you have any what you want to grow? Did you grow up to be like? Did you have any like ideas or inspirations?
I always wanted to be an artist, which is weird, right? Because now I work
Mm.
in IT. And so what I do today is, I guess people who knew me as a young boy would think, oh my God, how on earth did you end up doing that? But yeah, no, great dreams of being an artist. I was definitely going to be a famous artist, and that was my goal, at least up until about the age of 19 or 20. And then it dawned on me that actually being a successful artist is probably something that's going to happen when you're dead. And I thought, right, okay, maybe this isn't a career. Maybe I need to do something else. And that's where my career, I guess, if you could call it at that point a career, started to, realize that maybe art wasn't going to be what I ended up doing.
Well, I tell you my experience with art. My art teacher told my parents that I'm not good in art, so that I have no career in art. I was like, wow,
Nice.
isn't
Well, at
that
least he was
crazy?
honest, right?
Well,
That's good. I mean, what if he
yeah.
told you you were brilliant at art and then you turned out to be rubbish? That would be awkward, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it would. But any favorite type of art? Because I mean, art, it's a lot, right? Is there any
Right,
particular art?
yeah, and and it's such a personal thing, right? So,
Mm.
one person's favorite art is another person's monstrosity. So, no, I like very much like very contemporary abstract art. Abstract expressionism is my absolute favorite. So, I don't know. I guess you have lots of American listeners. So Cy Twombly is absolute one of my favorites. He's quite famous in America, I guess.
Okay, got you. I was more into the surrealism, like Salvador Dali. That was more
Right.
my
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. No, I definitely
And
got interested in that as a teenager, but no, Robert Rauschenberg, like pop art also became quite popular. So Jasper
mm,
Johns and all those sort of people. But yeah, no, Cy Twombly is
and
probably my favorite.
and you have Cubism, you have like
Right.
Picasso, and all that era. So that and then but you have Pollock, Jason Pollock, which is so it's pretty amazing about that.
Mm.
And I gotta tell you, I have stories about that too. I somebody that I know that sells the rights for Jason Pollock paintings, so that's pretty cool.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, they have those connections and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to know that it's part of history,
Mm.
art history, as they say. So
Sure.
Wow, wow. And so what was your did you have any hobbies or any interest besides painting, or has this always been painting? It was
Oh,
always in the
I've
arts.
had lots of hobbies. I get really interested in something and then do it for 6 months and then never want to do it again. So, I mean, I could probably give you a massive list of hobbies, but it's ranged from motorbikes to mountain biking to martial arts to
Really?
BMXing. I mean, you name it. Probably at some point I've done it and got really into it and then never touched it again, which I think people find strange, right? Because you create friends and you create sort of networks around a hobby or a sport.
Yeah,
And
you
so,
do.
I do this thing, and then 6 months later, they're like, "Hey, should we do that thing again?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm not into that anymore."
Wow. Yeah, it's really interesting. So you never have anything that you stayed with or committed with
Oh,
or
that's a
any?
good question. Yeah, I mean, art is probably one of the things that has stayed with me, even though obviously my work life is IT and it's all about platforms and architecture and very technical for the most part. Art is still something that, yeah, is a regular part of my life in some way or another.
Oh, wow. And what did you go to school for? Did you major anything?
Well, that's a
The
good
degree?
question. That's a very philosophical question, isn't it? Why did you go to school? Well, I don't know. You get sent off to school, don't you? You don't have a choice. But yeah, I mean, languages and art. But because look, I remember my dad said to me when I was young. I don't know if he said that many good things, but one thing I do remember that was quite wise, which was that look, when you're older, Elliot, one of two things is going to be important: either languages or computing. So if I was you, I'd pick one of them. Now, I picked languages, right? Languages fascinated me. I didn't obviously realize computing was going to be. So, there we go. He was right, I guess. And I just happened to pick the wrong one. So, yeah, most of my schooling was based around either art or languages because that's what I thought I was going to end up doing somehow.
Oh, okay, excellent. Wow. And so how did you tell us about your first job or your first
Yeah,
experience?
how do you get from art to IT? I know it's a
Yeah, yeah.
weird leap, isn't it? Well, again, as I got to like sort of my 20s, I think I realized that yeah, I was never going to be this famous artist, unfortunately. Or if I was, I would have to have some sort of part-time job, doing something that wasn't art. And I thought, well, that's not me. It's either all art or nothing. And so that's how I got into becoming a chef, actually, because I thought, oh, that's a really sort of creative career. I really like the idea of presenting food in quite a creative way. So I did that for a few years, and that was kind of fun, very tough, and you learn a lot from it. Definitely things that you take on into the more the sort of commercial world in terms of like office and IT. Um, and so yeah, anyway, decided that chefing wasn't for me. Lots of long hours, hard work, and I thought, I'm not sure this is entirely what I want to do with my life. And that's kind of got into IT from then. Really joined like a customer service thing, and then I got offered a job with a new startup that was doing fiber optics, and they offered to train me. And yeah, that was really my kickstarter at that point. I was already really interested in IT, so I got trained to be sort of a fiber optic network remote engineer type person. And then yeah, that's how it kind of kickstarted. Then at that point, I left art and chefing behind me and realized, oh, this is really interesting. This is about now changing things. So it was about, then sort of shifted into like process expertise, like implementing like IT processes and helping improve them and, doing change and making change happen. I found really interesting. So like operating or maintaining, boring, never want to do that. But making things happen, because I realized that most of it, I think I got lucky in my career, to be honest with you. I mean, I kind of regret not going to university. I think it would have been good. I'm just not sure I was the right person, but I'm not sure it's so easy to like go off and establish a good career without having some solid educational background to go on. I think I got, I think I think I just yeah, I think I had a series. Maybe people say you create your own luck, right? But and I certainly think that's true to some sense. But I also think sometimes you just need to be lucky. And I think certain, particularly that job that I described where, they offered to train me up as a network engineer. I think that was a real Kickstarter. Maybe not everyone else is so lucky like that. So that definitely helped. I don't know if that's good advice, to be honest with you. I mean, I kind of feel like you got to make your own, your own
Mhm.
choices, not listen to some strange English
But
bloke.
no, you're good at what you do because if you wouldn't, you wouldn't be where you are, right? I mean,
Yeah, I guess that's true, and and this I guess I'm going to go full circle now and tie everything together about why I talk so much about art and creativity because I think ultimately it helps me do what I do today. I know it sounds strange, right? Like art, creative, what's that got to do with like talking about architecture and cloud platforms, talking about strategy, how to be innovative. I mean, these are all sort of buzzwords that you hear all the time, right? Particularly in IT companies. How do we do innovation? And really, innovation is, I guess, in some sense, about doing stuff that people have never done before, right? That's really what it is in essence. And I think creative people are really good at this stuff because they dare to think differently. And that's, I guess, one I see as one of my major strengths is that I don't think like everybody else. So everyone is thinking, well, we'll just do this, and I'm already gone in a completely opposite direction because I want to challenge the status quo. So I think that's, again, pulling it all back to art again, is when I was young, the artists that I admired were artists that were doing very controversial pieces of art. They were daring to break the norms. They were getting people to react. And I found that very exciting, and I still do. So I very much like innovation as a concept because it's about asking, well, why can't we do that? Or what if we do this? And then because I like enjoying making things happen, I think it's quite a powerful combination, right? That you go from, well, what if we do this thing? And then I think I'm going to go and make it happen. And luckily, of course, now I'm in an era of where we have these amazing cloud sort of enterprise platforms that allow you to do some really kind of game-changing stuff that you couldn't do before. I mean, when I first got access to ServiceNow, which is the major cloud workflow platform that I work on, it was 10 years ago. And back then, this type of process consulting was like a year-long affair. If you were going to improve a process, you'd have this huge product startup, and then you try to change the system. And yeah, it would take easily 12, maybe 16 months of work. And then along came ServiceNow, and suddenly that you could do this in 3 months. Well, that was a total game changer. And for me, it was a massive eye opener. Wow, what is this platform? This is amazing. How does it do this? And I think that still to this day, even though we're 10 years later, absolutely love the idea that I can get an idea, play around with it in my head, formulate about what maybe this application for a business would do. And then maybe in a few days, I've actually got a real working proof of concept. That's fascinating. I mean, to me, that's very addictive. About saying, well, what if, and then making it a reality a couple of days later. So that's yeah, a major part of what I do now, at least in terms of like innovation. And then the strategic part is interesting because that's about asking questions about, well, what happens tomorrow, right? And that's also interesting. But it's also about learning from the past because, guessing sort of trends that are going to happen next week is fairly easy. Guessing trends that are going to happen over the next couple of years is slightly harder. However, I think if you've got a head above the ground and you're actually looking around what's happening to you, I think sort of guessing the next logical stages, this isn't actually as hard. So I'll give you an example. So like today, often when you're recruited to a company, well, the traditional ways that someone looks at your qualifications, right? But maybe the future is that actually you look about whether, you are a cultural fit for the company. And then maybe the next stage after that is actually we look at how well you are at collaborating, because actually that's more important. And so we're going to see, so looking at these natural shifts. And so particularly within IT, right, we often talk about, managers of systems. We have lots of IT managers, and they're all managing these systems. But really the future is that, the systems manage themselves, right? So how do you get to that? And also this thing that I often talk about in IT is this idea of invisible IT, right? Electricity we take for granted, it's all around us. There's no chief of electricity officer within a company. We just assume it's always there, it's always on. And I think, really that's the future of IT, actually. But we'll get to a point where IT essentially becomes invisible. It's always there, particularly like the internet. We are from very different countries at different levels of, technology progression. Sweden is quite unique in that it's always been quite advanced in its ability to roll out the latest technology, probably due to the fact that it only has really 3 major hubs, cities, Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmo. That makes it very easy to do this type of rollout. So yeah, we kind of see this stuff happening maybe before everybody else, but I don't know, I kind of really find all that stuff really super interesting and fun to look towards and see, well, okay, how do these changes now affect us? So of course, what they're talking about now, everyone's talking about AI, right?
Right, that's right.
And generally, if you look out there in the LinkedIn world, people are very positive to AI, but I'm not. And I know that's a weird thing to say, right? I'm positive in the sense that I think the next 10 years are going to be the golden years of AI, right? But I think what happens after that, I'm less positive about. So I definitely see that from now, until 20, 30 something, we're going to really enjoy AI. It's going to do lots of work for us. And I'm sure you're using it in your job, Juan, and I'm certainly using it in mine to write documentation,
Absolutely.
script,
Absolutely.
come up with ideas. It just
Well,
saves me time everywhere.
to give you an idea what these interviews I used to take me all days to do because it was just the
Oh,
conversion and everything. But now with the technology, it's so much quicker, faster to even do the editings and stuff like that. So, but at the end of the day, there's a learning curve. You have to learn how to do that and use these tools. With these AI tools and everything, you still got to learn. There's a learning curve, and you have to take the time to learn.
right, and
And
it's still
ultimately,
very much in its infancy. So we often
yeah,
we take a new technology that appears, and we often assume that it's at its peak of its maturity, and we often then pick faults in it and go, "Oh, but it can't do this," and AI is
it,
stupid. It can't even do basic maths. No, it can't, right? But it's still early days, and the rate of learning is so incredibly fast. That's the scary part, not the fact that what it can do now. It's just how quickly it can learn.
Yeah, think about the beginning of the internet. Remember how the internet first started? Everybody did was not adapted to it, but then everybody started coming into it, and then all of a sudden it was the communities. And this is a good segue because I was going to ask you, do you belong to any other communities, online communities, or any networking groups, or anything that you
Well,
do?
a network in the sense that I'm part of like a sort of developer community within the ServiceNow platform. So I quite like to participate in those events, and I think sort of being an evangelist, I'm not sure I like the word, but certainly an advocate of the ServiceNow platform. I think I like to talk about it a lot. I like to talk about the ideas and what could be done with the platform, particularly interesting user cases. For example, right now, working on loads of stuff within the manufacturing sector. I know this is a product that's traditionally used to do IT workflows, but I think what we're seeing now is actually they're getting out of that and into vertical workflows, which I think is exciting because manufacturing is a huge vertical and there's so many interesting processes in there that
Right.
they're fun to say, well, how do we digitalize them, right? How do we make manufacturing more? How do we bring them into the 21st century, right? These are companies been doing lots of stuff on paper for such a long time, so it's fun to transform them.
So now tell us about your company, about the company,
Well, I
Advania.
work for a company called Advania. It's a
Advania.
Nordic company, so they're based in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and actually even the UK. And the mothership is in Iceland. It's an IT company, a system integrator. They've been around a long time. They're currently owned by Goldman Sachs, so they're pretty famous. I think
Oh, wow.
yeah, so we're about 5,000 employees now. I really like the company actually. They have a very decentralized model that I think is quite special to them, right? So there are centralized functions, but ultimately all the business units are their own boss in some sense, or their own company in their own right to some degree. And that's an incredible freedom, right? I think hierarchies in Sweden are very flat, maybe compared to America or the UK. Um, but also there's this sense of, well, you have this responsibility or you have this responsibility to take decisions very close to, because you're the business unit, you understand the customer, right? So you know what's best. So there's that sort of freedom with responsibility that I like. I don't want somebody to tell me what to do. I want someone to expect that they paid me because I know what I'm doing, so just let me do it, right? And I always felt that that's what Advania did. They said, okay, Elliot, you know what you're doing, off you go. And I'm a great believer in the fact that, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for approval. So, you
Yeah.
know.
What have you been of some of your experience with the company, like with other, like doing some a lot of automations, right? That's a lot of
Right,
automation
yeah.
tooling.
So currently it's around building applications as well, kind of what I've been doing for the last few years. So that's the bit I find the most exciting. It's generally a lot of pre-sales work, to be honest with you, talking about the platform, inspiring customers to use the platform in ways they maybe not thought how to do it or what they can actually do with the platform, i.e. what workflows could they automate, what types of business applications could they build on the platform, but also then running a team of developers to actually build actual applications that are then available in like a store that can be downloaded.
And any specific industries or verticals?
Well, yeah, back to manufacturing, really. The one I'm working on, I can't tell you what I'm working on at the moment. It's still, in work in progress, but it's to do with automating a process within manufacturing. Yes.
Right.
And then the previous app to that I built was to do with actually following best practices, right? So you have these huge cloud enterprise platforms, right? They're not
Mhm.
cheap, let's face
But
it. They
yep.
cost Yeah, they cost, we're talking $1 million licenses type thing. So they're very expensive.
Wow.
Yes, but they
Wow.
give lots of value. So they'll,
Yeah, and security. Yeah,
yeah, right, exactly.
you're,
But it's kind of easy to damage them too, right? So I built an app that basically helped developers follow best practices and warned them if they were about to do something that they shouldn't. So preventing technical debt. And yeah, it's been kind of really successful, actually, more successful than I thought it was going to be. Just, I guess, because it solves us, a problem that a lot of customers have, that they buy these platforms and then don't really look after them, don't have good governance in place, and they build up a lot of technical debt, and then they go, oh my God, it's quite expensive to fix this. Well, I guess hopefully through my application, they never get to that point.
wow, excellent. Well, it's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing your story. It's been wonderful. And if you want people to contact you, what's the best way to contact you or find you?
Well, the best is to probably contact me at my work, isn't it? Elliot.west@advania.com. And if you're interested in ServiceNow and the platform and seeing what it's capable of, then yeah, always fun to talk about ServiceNow. So,
Well, thank you, Elliot. It's been truly a pleasure, and thank you for sharing your story from becoming a chef to the IT guy now and artist and everything. It's been truly wonderful spending some time with you. And if you'd like to become a member of Winning on Wednesday, simply go to winningonwednesday.com and sign as a first-time guest. So thank you so much, and thank you, Elliot. Thank you.